Okay, so what I'm going to discuss today, I'm going to discuss about the flow of the project, how a data engineer inside the Microsoft Azure by using different services. We have different kind of services, right? By using all these services, how he is going to integrating the all the services. Ideally, in this Azure Data Engineering course, what are the services we are going to use? Ideally, we are going to use the storage account, data lake, Gen 2, right? And SQL server, might be Azure SQL server, Azure SQL database, and Synapse dedicated,
and Synapse.
SQL pool, and Data Factory, using as a part of a data engineer inside the Microsoft Azure.
Using as a part of it.
Inside the Microsoft Azure portal, these are all the services we are using as a data engineer. So let me give you the overview how a project flow will start, which service and where we are using over here. Let's, for example, if you see here, I have a business. Okay, so every business contains some applications. Let's, for example, I have a supermarket. Okay, or else we have ATM centers. So this is one ATM. This is a ATM centers in one location. This is another ATM centers in a different country. Let's, for example, I am operating Citibank in US. Okay, this is Citibank in US, and this is a Citibank in India. So they are operating the ATM centers in each country in different locations over here. This is one ATM center. This is another ATM center. Okay, this is one more ATM center, and this is another ATM center, and this is another one, and this is another one. So this is how we have a different ATM centers over here. In each ATM center, when a customer is trying to withdraw the amount in a particular ATM center, okay, in a particular ATM center, when they are trying to withdraw the amount, what will happen? Immediately, the transaction, whatever the amount they have withdrawn, that information will come and store in the backend database. Definitely, that will come from the ATM centers into a database server. So, which database server it is? It is either SQL server on premises or Oracle database or whatever it is. Mostly SQL server in local. Local means on premises. It is not in the cloud environment. Similarly, here also, when there is a India location, in the India location also, when there are some transactions are happening, then immediately that data also going to be stored in the backend database server over here. Sorry. So this is also another SQL server. Server on premises. Okay. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to I'm going to get this information from these local servers into the cloud environment. This is Microsoft Azure. Inside this Microsoft Azure, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull this data from this on-premises SQL server to cloud environment, either into a storage account blob storage or into a data lake. That depends on the requirement. Okay. So ideally in your source, your
That's
data is in a
the requirement.
tables. Say
Okay.
database
Ideally, in your
and
source,
tables.
your data is in the tables.
Here also database tables. Because this structure, whatever this structure was designed long back when a Citibank is implementing their operations. That is the reason they are storing the data in their on-premises SQL server. If it is a latest projects, what they are doing, instead of using this SQL server in on-premises, directly they are going to use a Azure SQL database in Microsoft Azure Cloud only. So simply what they will do, directly they will take this data into this Azure SQL database from this one also. You got it? This is for latest projects. But if already a business is running long back before to this cloud, then many projects are implemented on the on-premises only. So their business data daily it will come to this on-premises SQL server databases, and that data we need to pull into the Microsoft Azure cloud. So this is Microsoft Azure. Inside, I want to either store into the storage account or here data lake. Okay. So whatever the data we have in this database server, and whatever the data we have in this database server, either we can pull into the storage account or into the data lake gen 2. Either ways we can pull into a storage account or into a data lake gen 2 in terms of the files. The entire data what you have in your database tables, for every table we are pulling like one file. So we are going to save the data coming from each table into storage account like a CSV file. I will save all the tables, whatever I need daily, the transactions data, I will pull and store into either storage account or into a data lake over here. Either you can store into a storage account or into a data lake, and then it is going to be saved like a files, CSV files. So how are you going to move this data from this on-premises SQL server to this cloud storage account or into a data lake? What service you are going to use to transform this data? So we are not going to transform, we are just extracting and loading the data, right? So for that, you can able to use a service available inside the Microsoft Azure, that is Data Factory. By using a Data Factory, Data Factory is a ETL tool where we can use to bring the data from on-premises SQL server to cloud environment. First, we are just dumping the raw data, whatever the business data you have in your different servers. That data simply I'm going to storing into the storage account or into a data lake. Just as it is the table data copy, I will save into the storage account or data lake. Okay. Now you have your data, business data in this particular storage account or data lake in terms of a files. Then after what do you want to do? So then finally, I want to load this data into Synapse dedicated SQL pool. That is called Synapse Data Warehousing. Synapse, Synapse dedicated SQL pool, nothing but a data warehousing. So we are going to store our data, whatever we have in this Synapse dedicated SQL pool, will be stored inside this one. To load this data, to load this data, what are the services we are going to use over here from this storage account? Here we need to apply some transformation techniques. When you are copying the data from on-premises to this storage account or data lake Gen 2, we are not applying any transformations. Simply as it is, whatever the data I have here, that data I'm just copy and paste into this storage account or data lake. But when we are going to move the data from this storage account or data lake Gen 2 into this Synapse dedicated SQL pool, we have to apply some business logics and transformation techniques over here. So to extract the data and applying the transformation techniques and finally to load the data, then what are the services available inside this Microsoft Azure? There are two services available. Again, you can use a data factory. Inside the data factory, we have a concept of data flows concept. By using this data flows concept, we can perform the transformation techniques inside the data factory, or you can use a data bricks over here. Either you can use a data bricks or data factory to perform the data transformations. But inside the data factory, you don't need to write any coding over here. You don't need to write any coding over here. When you are coming to this data breaks, you have to write down the transform. You have to write the coding over here. Okay. Inside this data, inside this data bricks, you need to write down the coding. Which coding you need to write down? I'm going to write down either PySpark, PySpark, or Spark SQL. PySpark or Spark SQL. We need to write down it over here. Okay, done. Now you can see here whatever this data you have loaded finally into the Synapse dedicated SQL pool, we can use Power BI reporting tool to design the reports and dashboards by taking the data from here to here. Power BI. What purpose we can use Power BI? To design the reports and dashboards. Reports and dashboards. And now you can understand here when you are working in a real time project or when you are going to the interview, they will ask a question. Hey, in your project, what is your source data? You can say your source is, you can say your source is, this is your source, whatever the Azure SQL database. This is my source. Whatever the business data coming from these ATM centers, from the applications, when that data is storing in backend somewhere, in my scenario, my data is storing in the on-premises SQL server. That is my source. Okay. How you are moving this data from source to where you are moving first? I'm going to move this data from source to staging area. What is the staging area here? The staging area is storage account or data lake Gen 2 account. So this is a kind of a staging area. First, we will dump the data from out of cloud into this storage account or into a data lake Gen 2. Then after, what is your target? This is your target. Okay. This is staging area. This is your target. And then finally, this is the presentation layer. Presentation layer means reporting. Got it? So this is the flow you need to explain in your interview. So here, while you are going to move the data from source to staging, what is the service you are using? I'm going to use the Data Factory. You can't use Databricks here. Then from staging to target, when you are processing the data, what are the services you can use? Either you can use Data Factory. Inside we have a concept of data flows, because if you want to apply the transformations, you need to use the data flows inside a data factory. Or you can use data bricks. This is purely commands you need to write down. What commands we are going to teach over here? Either PySpark or Spark SQL. It is more similar like a SQL over here. Then simply once the data is processed and saved inside this Synapse dedicated SQL pool, then that data we are going to use inside the Power BI to designing the reports and dashboards over here. Okay, so this is like a the flow of the project, how a data from a business to, like we are going to designing of the reports and dashboards to the customers over here. Okay, so now you got the idea what services ideally in a real-time projects we are using, and what are all the services, and how these services are integrated, and which one we are using first, and then what services we are going to use. So what is the role of Azure SQL database here? Azure SQL database is optional. Okay, so sometimes Azure SQL database, I told you right, it will be here, and it is a staging area or a source. Sometimes it will be a source also. How it is going to be source? Whatever the business data you have, right, from the business, instead of saving that data into this on-premises SQL server, sometimes it is directly coming and storing in the cloud Azure SQL database. Okay, in such kind of situations, that data directly transform to this Synapse dedicated SQL pool. Then you don't need to use of this data factory here, and you don't need to use of this services storage account or data lake. That is another scenario. Okay, that's very rare scenario, because when there is a latest implementations happen on these projects, new business and new application when they are developing, then it is going to be this process. But when the older projects already running, then it is going to be, this is the flow we can use. So sometimes like source might be changed. Here in this scenario I'm taking the source as a SQL server on premises, right? But sometimes it is a Oracle database, sometimes it is a SAP mod, SAP or whatever it is, any data source, or sometimes your source also be like a files also. So anything you can able to connect from the data factory to this data source, that you can bring it over here. Okay, simply we are copying the data from source to staging area, then from staging to target, then from target to reports to design the reports and dashboards. Any kind of reports and dashboards related to your business, you can able to design it over here. Okay, so in this process, if you see, we were discussing about the storage accounts, data lake, Synapse, Azure SQL database, data factory, Databricks. Then what about this uh, Synapse Analytics? Synapse Analytics. What are these Azure Synapse Analytics? Azure Synapse Analytics is all about, okay, the Azure Synapse Analytics. It is a combination of these things. What are the things is involved on this one? It is a combination of these three. Because Synapse Analytics is not a new service actually. It's a combination of all these services. What the Microsoft is thinking, Microsoft wants to keep all these three services in one place. So ideally, if you want to create a data factory, you need to create a separate service. If you want a Databricks, you need to create a separate Databricks over here. If you need a SQL pool, then you need to create it separately. But if you are using this Azure Synapse Analytics, all are in the same place. All are in the same place. So if you are learning these three services separately, then Azure Synapse Analytics also completed. Okay, just like user interface will be changed, but everything whatever you can do by using Databricks, by using Data Factory, by using Synapse dedicated skill pool, everything will be available inside the Azure Synapse Analytics over here. So that is the reason first we are going to learn all these services. Once you are learning all these services, then automatically you will be understanding the Synapse Analytics easily within one or two sessions only. Okay, so first let me complete these services, and then at the ending I will give you the overview. What are all the options you are finding in the Data Factory? Same options where you can find in the Azure Synapse Analytics over here. Okay, so this is how we can understand this all the services whatever we are using over here as a Azure Data Engineer. And at the ending, we are going to cover this for the reporting purpose. Few reports how to create by using a Power BI also I'm going to cover in this course. Then you can understand easily the entire flow, like from source, how the data is processing over here, and the ending, how reports will be designed over here. Okay, how the reports will be designed over here. All right. So this is the flow we were following. Ideally, according to this, you need to frame your project. Flow is same. Only what will be changed? Here I am taking a Citibank. You can change this business. Let me take Walmart. Same flow. Business will be changed. That's all. Here the ATM transactions data we are pulling and saving here. But other customer, whatever the sales data from the supermarkets, that data they are pulling from here and they are saving it over here. Okay. So according to that, you need to understand first client business. Citibank, what it will do. Walmart supermarket, what it will do. DMart, what it will do. So you need to understand the business of the customer. According to that, you need to define the flow over here. According to that, you need to define the flow over here. Okay. All right. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to starting from the next session onwards, these services. So let me take it a one storage account or a data lake Gen 2. How can we processing of the data from storage account to data lake, from storage account or a data lake Gen 2 account into Synapse or any Synapse is something similar like your SQL only. Your Azure SQL database is there, right? It is also something similar like your Azure SQL database only. Okay. If anything not yet covered, then definitely I will come back and cover every service. So what I'm going to discuss in the further session, I'm going to discussing about this data bricks with PySpark and Spark SQL I'm going to teach you.